Hello, Gail. We're back.
Yay, Larry!
Another Gurus and Sages, a new look at the Buy My Improvement program industry. Let's talk about the difference between gurus and sages. We all have our own unique definitions. So, to me, a sage is someone who has discovered a pathway into what has always been true. It's always true. It's true now, and it will always be true. Gurus are basically everybody else. There's nothing wrong with either one. The difference is the sages really know what they're talking about at the deepest, most profound level. And the more sage wisdom we stuff into our mind, the better off our lives become. That's my definition. How do you see it?
Well, I will talk about my personal experience. So I would say when I first started coaching and mentoring, I would consider myself a guru. I was pretty good because I already had some experience and I was able to lead people in a successful path. However, I was spewing out the same BS everyone else was spewing out. Right? So it wasn't unique, it wasn't me, and I knew I had to find my path. Well, my path found me, and that's what a sage is. It's what comes to me when I'm with a client or if I'm giving an event. When I go on stage, I don't have a script. I have points I want to reach, but I'm feeling the audience, and so I respond based on what I'm feeling you actually need from me, not what I think I want to give to you. There's a difference there.
I think this is misunderstood, where we're not inventing or creating anything new. It's already there. So the way it works is that there is a stream of intelligence that is all around us. And what I invite people to do who are entrepreneurs to leap into the top 1% of entrepreneurs, as I define by an inner state of freedom, feeling complete satisfaction with your vision as you're creating it, and happiness, meaning that you're complete inside yourself without needing anything external
Yes.
to develop that feeling, is to find ways to tap into that source. That is an energy source. And that energy source is where all the sage wisdom is. And it's all the same. It's just being adapted for different cultural circumstances and different groups of people. So it's usable.
Well, and so here's what again my experience has been and still is. One of the barriers to tapping in is you need to drop all of your preconceived ideas as to what truth is.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
So my
you
slogan is everything we were taught is wrong.
it's
That's my
wrong.
name.
It's
That's what I
wrong. It's
mean by that.
wrong, right? It's upside down or backwards or inside out or all of the above. And when you are allow yourself to be open to the possibilities that there are more than one perspective on things and more than one way to achieve something and maybe some way easier than what you thought, um, wisdom comes to you because you're not blocking it anymore. And you kind of mentioned energy, and you have to be able to receive the energy, right? That's there. It's all around us.
Yes.
It's all around us. It's just, have you opened up your channel? Have you dialed in? Right? Have you dialed in? And you can just adjust that and you tweak it every day. So the person I am today is not the person I was yesterday. I've had new experiences. So I've changed.
We live life on two planes. So we live life in this world, and it's important. And we live life in a plane of existence that has always existed at the same time. These things are
Right.
happening together. And our goal is to allow in the world in which we are that other world to emerge and come together in an integrated way. So let's talk about some sage ideas that are a problem, I think. One is this idea of killing this sabotaging part of your mind. And we've
No.
talked about this a lot. So, how does that show up? So, there's a lot of mindset coaches teaching this right now. If there's sort of this reptile brain, and you got to figure it out and identify it, and then sort of get rid of it and reprogram it. And that's totally wrong.
Right?
It's completely wrong.
Then you're gonna walk out into traffic and get hit by a car. Right? Because you're getting rid of the very thing that's there to protect the
That's
body.
right. That's right. That's right.
Right? So, no, the key is to understand, whether or not you're reacting to the situation that is right now. So let's talk about fear. I'll talk to you again, my experience. So this is truth. When I finally addressed fear, and I did timeline work and I went to the root cause of fear, and we don't have to talk about what that is, maybe some other time, but I dealt with the root cause of my fear. And that doesn't mean I am fearless. It's the fear that is not in relationship to the circumstance. So, for example,
Hmm.
I could not go up a ladder. First rung, I froze. Within a month of dealing with my fear, I was at a camp. It's like a guerrilla camp, and I'm climbing up a telephone pole and jumping off. And as I'm jumping off, because your team is holding you, as I'm jumping off, I went, look at this scenery. Didn't even dawn on me that a month ago I would not have even gotten a foot up that pole, right? And I'm doing all of these things and not being fearful because I was safe, right? But it doesn't mean I don't have fear. When something comes up that, hey, Gail, don't cross the street, there's a lot of traffic, I do respond appropriately. It's the
Hmm.
inappropriate fear that we want to get rid of.
Yeah, that's great. One of the myths, I think, is that life is limited. Life is unlimited. The
Amen.
potential in this field of existence is beyond anything that anyone could possibly imagine until you've had this experience. So, as an entrepreneur, there's a huge opportunity here, because when you get what you want, now you have the problem and you have the opportunity to really do something. This is not a solution to a problem. So people are looking to solve a problem. This isn't a problem. This is a state of existence.
I was going to say,
So
this is life.
this is life. It's not a problem to be solved. So what are you doing? So what's freedom? Freedom is, well, I made enough money now I can do whatever I want and don't have a boss. Well, sure, on one plane of existence, that's true. Um, Freedom or satisfaction is, I like my company. I enjoy what I do. I found my why. Okay, on the ordinary plane of
Mhm.
existence, sure, that's true. Happiness, I love my family. I have work-life balance. Sure, that's great. But do you still have a feeling that something is missing, or do you have it there but it's
Yes.
hiding and you don't see it? But you're running away from it by working harder, having more awesome work-life balance, or constructing a story about yourself that you're putting out in social media to make yourself more popular. The only way to solve the something is missing problem is to see your own reality.
So, one of the words that you said is limitless energy. And I want to touch base on that for a moment because it is, we don't have any concept as far as the power of the energy that is us, our origin. And here's what happens, our body and our ability right now can only handle so
Right.
much, right? And so as we evolve and we get, oh, I love this, as we get more in tune and raise our vibration, and it is possible to raise your vibration, then you're able to take in more energy. And this is what Larry is talking about. If you want that, the happiness and the joy and the deliciousness of life that we are entitled to in this plane of
Hmm.
existence, right? It's allowing yourself to let go of the stuff that we were told is true and explore the possibilities of what is
That's
really
that
out there.
simple. So what I ask people is, how do you think that Picasso painted that painting? How do you think that Beethoven, deaf, was able to bring in that symphony? How do you think Willie Nelson writes songs? That's how. So what does this look like when it's pure, in pure form? So what happens is the self of belief systems, when you see the belief systems and you realize, oh, none of that is true, begins to dissolve. So in Buddhism, they talk about this as, the term is called emptiness. It doesn't mean that our self doesn't
Oh,
exist. It means that it's empty. Well, what's in there? Everything. When you allow the everything to
yes.
emerge, now all of a sudden you will get everything that you've ever wanted in your life. But if you go after the things that you want, you won't get them because you don't know what you want. So you're chasing things that you actually don't want to have happen without even realizing it. Right? This is the
right?
paradox.
Right. It's just crazy. I love that you said the emptiness because I wrote down the word abyss earlier. And the reason is, I've got a book that's coming out in
I
September.
cannot wait to
And
read your
one
book.
of the
I am so excited.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so
It's
excited.
amazing. I love it. I'm so in love with it. And there's a chapter there about the abyss, which is your heart center, right? And I have a meditation that goes along with this stuff, and I'm like, I can't use the word abyss because people are going to go to the dark side of the abyss and get lost in the darkness of it. But what you just said is what I put into the meditation. In the abyss, there exists the no
Mm,
thing. And in the no thing, there's a possibility of all things.
yes, it's very simple, but hard to understand, and that's because you can't. So the only understanding you can have is the
It's not
experience
right.
of it. So one suggestion I would make to people is on September 20th, 2020 at 5 o'clock in the morning, I started a daily practice. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to meditate. You don't want to, that's a
I don't
separate thing.
know.
It's good. It's just done for a different reason. Don't meditate. Don't listen to music. Don't work, for God's sakes. Don't join the 5 a.m. hard work club. Don't be productive. All you have to do is start to pay attention to what is going on inside yourself and establish a dialogue. That's it. Do that for 30 minutes every day for 7 days, and something will shift. It will work. It always works. It's always worked. It always will work. All you have to do is do that. And that little voice is going to tell you to do stuff, and you're going to feel like, and you know what the answer will be? The answer will be no.
And I will say, "Okay," right? So
The
and I
answer
do
will be
it
no when
by
you
taking a
first
little
start,
walk.
not later.
Right, right, right. Exactly. You want me to what? No way. That's crazy, right? And then you might close the door. So be careful. Be careful to close the door on yourself because that's yourself. And at one time I was taking my walk and I had this brilliant idea hit me. And I'm looking at the trees and I'm looking around. I went, "Is that you or is that
Oh,
me?" And the next thought that came was,
what's
"What's the difference?"
that's I've had that same experience. Actually, it's the
Okay.
same. So we got a comment here, Latara. Oh, I know Latara.
Yes.
Self-sabotage. The struggle is real. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fear of real threats versus fear of perceived threats. Life is in danger versus
Correct.
speaking on stage. So how do you see that?
You know, many times our emotions and especially, our like fear is a perfect one, is based on stories. Right? So it's based on, and I know I've said this before, but I love this analogy. So your brain goes, "Oh, look at this. I banged my knee. Hold on, let me get the file cabinet. That's my knee file cabinet. Okay, let me open the door that says banged knee. And it's like my kneecap. Okay, let me pull out the folder. Oh, this is the story about the banged knee. This is how I'm supposed to feel and how I'm supposed to react because when I was 2 and banged my knee, I had to go in for
Mhm.
surgery." Right? And so you react in a way that is disproportionate to the actual situation, right? That's the time when you start to you ask yourself questions. Am I reacting appropriately to this? How big of a deal is this really? Well, what would happen if I didn't react so violently to this? What wouldn't happen? What would happen? What wouldn't happen? How can I change my perspective? What is it that I really need to do? Right? So ask yourself some intelligent questions, right? And you'll start to calm down and allow yourself to respond versus reacting. And what Larry and I are talking about is actually not reacting. It is responding to that voice in
Mhm.
your head that you've been
Yes,
taught to ignore since
because
the day you
everything
were
we were taught is
conceived.
wrong.
It's absolutely wrong, right? Let's talk about attachments. We have a little time. Yay. Attachments. Attachment is one of my favorite things to break when I have clients. You will no longer feel
Mhm.
attached, right? And here's why. Attachment is something that we need for survival. As infants, we become attached to our mother. She feeds us. We attach to our father because he puts a roof over our head. The little stories that we're told. We then identify love with attachment. And then we get married and get angry because we have these expectations to the person we're
Mhm.
attached to, and they don't meet our expectations. Well, it's exhausting to meet your
Yes,
expectation, Larry, right? And that's where we start to fragment it. Those who work with me who are able to get to the point where they no longer rely on attachment, and it takes exercise to recognize, okay, that's me, that's my attachment, that's my thing, are so happy and so content. Their relationships are blooming because they're not putting that weight on. They're standing in their own power. And again, that energy is now able to flow. It's all about flow.
it
Life
is
is
flow,
flow,
and
right?
it's not a flow state. So a flow state is
No,
conditional on an activity. Flow
right.
happens when you're connected into your true self, and then you're always in flow, or you're not because you decided to ignore it. So you have the free will
Well,
to screw up your own life. I mean, we're certainly able to.
right?
So one of the things with entrepreneurs, so I'm not a coach. My program is 8 weeks. It's called Red Pill Pathway, and successful entrepreneurs don't really need coaches in this area because what they need is the truth. They need a system, they need a pathway, and they need it to integrate with their desire to pursue their vision. So the problem is some of the most successful people in the world who are pursuing their vision have trouble stopping and spending 3 months finding themselves. So what I suggest with people like this is don't stop and go find yourself. Become aware of
No.
what you're already doing at a deeper level, and that will change your life. In other words, you don't have to change anything external to change everything.
And it's small, and it's small. I like to look at it like a graph, Larry, and you're heading up the goal, whatever. By the way, there is no goal to self-enlightenment. It's
Yeah.
just
Again, it's not a problem to be solved with a
no.
solution.
And it exists. It just
I'm
is.
going to take the 8-week program and then I'm going no,
And
it
then
doesn't
I'll
make
be enlightened. Okay. Right?
right.
Maybe not. Um, but all you need to do is make a slight change and your trajectory will dramatically shift. And that's what Larry is saying. Still live your life, right? Don't drop off and, go contemplate your navel.
You don't have
That's
to move to Tibet.
no, you don't have to move to Tibet, right? But it's the small things. I love the 30-minute, spend some time with yourself. I have clients before we even get there, spend some time in the mirror and look in the mirror and say, I love you. Look in the mirror and look in your eyes and say, I love you and mean it.
So for me, that stuff, I'm like, I've tried those things, Louise Hay and and I'm like, that does not work for me. So I think the important thing is there's different ways of accessing this
Right.
power and energy. And Gail and I are here because we're called to do these things. We have a motive that goes fairly deep into our own historical being to do it, and we do it for different types of people because
Mhm.
the adjustment is important. Because today the pathways, which are always true of Buddhism and some of the other philosophical systems, Kabbalah and stuff like that, are too complicated. So I went down those roads. So,
They are.
so if you want to do the meditation and the mindset, and that's not going to work because it's been stripped out of the full tradition and the full system. That's why those things don't work for they think they're working, but they're not really working. You just feel a little bit better.
Well, right, exactly. For me, so the book is about the Kabbalah, and it's about patterns on the trestle board and tree of life, and I've synthesized each Sephora, which is your energy centers, down to it. This is what this means. This is what it means in your life today, right? And I could have gotten so complicated because it
Yeah.
is very
And
complicated.
it's
People
fun to be
spend
complicated with it. At least for me, I know it is.
right. Well, I
But it's not
resisted in the
helpful.
book. No, it's not helpful. I wanted to write a book that people could identify with in their daily life, right? And you've got 3 modalities for each chapter. You get to read it, you get to do an exercise, and if you're that type of person, you get to hit a link and get a meditation. all about each chapter because everyone is different. I tried to hit as many modalities as I could in a book, right? So, and the point is for you to experience a shift, and people do. I've had people who've read the book, and I've gotten like, holy cow! So, yay! I can't wait. I can't wait.
The reason what you're talking about works, and I'll give people a way to evaluate gurus and sages. So the difference is that when you see eternal wisdom of this sort, it's a comprehensive system. It's including many different parts that go beyond the experience of the individual that pulled it together. So, for example, with what I'm doing with Red Pill Pathway, I am not showing people how I accessed this power. I will tell them by way of an example,
Right.
but there's 5 different ways to access it. I access it through mind. You can
Correct.
access it through body. You access it through heart.
Right.
We've talked about that here. You can access it through a visualization, and you can access through a creative object in mind. It's been made very clear to me by the powers that be that have asked me to do this for the entrepreneurial community so we can elevate the evolution of the human race by building companies that actually mean something instead of just another AI tool or another coaching program that nobody needs or whatever. Um, to do it in this way because each individual is different. We have a system inside ourselves that's very intricate, and that energy of that system needs to be opened up. In other words, if you find someone who's saying, this is what I did, and their story is, my life was great, everything fell apart, I did this magic thing, and now everything's incredible, run.
Right? Right. Right. So I have to tell you, and I'll be very, very transparent here. I have a podcast where that's the point is shit happened. I woke up and here's how I changed my life. Those that I enjoy interviewing are transparent with the fact that life isn't all roses, right? I have turned into a person who now is open to better things and to change, but I have gotten over a trauma in my life. And I have to tell you, those of us who have had traumas in our life, which 90% of us did, right? Very few people have had a beautiful, beautiful life. That trauma is a gift.
It is the gift, and this is
Bye
the
bye,
point
Keith.
of this, is the story is that, but in 35 acts, not 3. So
Right?
that's where you gotta probe into, is you wanna understand before you do something with somebody. For example, the epiphany moment for me was on September 20th, 2020 at 5 o'clock in the morning, which led to years of struggle to integrate that epiphany moment into something deeper where I was able to access and open up to more truth. And the tipping moment of what I would call entering the magical world, which is a clarity experience, didn't happen until February February 13th of 2023.
And I love that
Hmm.
you can put a solid date on this.
I
For
recorded
me,
all of it and wrote it
oh,
in the
okay.
journal. Otherwise, I would
Because
never remember.
for me, it is like
Yeah.
every day, even in writing the book and in creating the meditations. I mean, right now I'm creating the meditations. I'm almost done, and I'm like, oh my god, this is such a. How do I explain this in the meditation so that it really sinks in? Because this is I'm learning still, learning still, because there's so much wisdom right out there,
Yes,
and so much that we at this level don't really understand.
correct.
And I don't mean understand it analytically, I mean knowledge. It's a feeling, it's a just knowing. And Larry, until someone experiences
Can't
what
understand
that
it.
means, there's no words
I
for it.
think the simplicity
Yeah.
of having the experience is important for people to understand, because when I listen to the Eckhart Tolles and Deepak Chopra and some Michael Singer and some of these other people who talk about these experiences, I felt it felt elusive to me. Like, well, how could I do that? And the answer is you can. And there is an elevation as you're going. It's a journey of experience. Now there are leaps, and the biggest leap is from what I call the ordinary world into the magical world. And that leap is when you do see the reality of yourself and how the world really works. That's the big dividing line. In my own personal experience, where all of a sudden I realized everything I was taught was wrong. Everything in
Everything,
this
everything.
society.
You know,
Now, not every society has this problem, but the modern world
right,
does.
because yes, for the most part, because there are societies who have spent their time questioning. I mean, those who study the Kabbalah it's a process of questioning, a process of exploring. It's a process of wanting to go deeper and know more. So it's not like here it is, here's the truth about life.
No,
Even though my
because
subtitle
that
of
just goes
my
in
book is
here. That just
here's the
goes in
truth,
here, so it
right?
doesn't mean anything.
Right? Right, because we don't understand it. I had a conversation with someone about levels, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, and I woke up this morning and I went, "There's no goddamn dimension. It just is."
We
The
conceptualize a
dimension
dimension, right?
thing,
We create a dimension
right?
to understand it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. And so we got have these mathematical models that
Yes.
demonstrate it and yada yada yada, so that we can intellectualize it. There just is, and that's something that in this plane understand.
Yes, and we don't need to. What we need to do is access it.
Right.
So, the idea of woo-woo stuff is so misunderstood because this is science,
It
practical
is.
science. So, as I have more experiences of it, I just realized that this is the most practical experience that I've ever had. And it's designed for certain purposes. And one is if you are an entrepreneur, dogs, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a big vision, this system wants you to realize that vision if it is the right vision, and it wants you to fail if it's not.
If
It
it's
wants you to
yes,
not get results if those results keep you from getting what you've always wanted to get. That is a paradoxical, confusing statement to people who
that
haven't had
is
this experience.
the job where I got fired, right? Successful. I was in this, C level, and then I get this other job, and they fire me. Best thing ever because it
Yeah.
threw me down the abyss. And okay, look at this. Going through a crisis, it threw me down an abyss of anger and bitterness, and it woke me up.
Mm.
Right. So what is Larissa saying? When I was in the yes.
Well, oh, speaking of going through crisis and challenging, I felt most connected when I was in an abusive relationship. No, that's not crazy. I had a man. That makes perfect sense to me,
Right.
because externals don't matter.
They don't matter.
So if you think you're going to have freedom because you make enough money to be able to do whatever you want, or because you get your business to the next level, it won't be. This is not true.
Right.
That's a belief system that's wrong.
Right.
Jim Carrey explains this really well. I wish everyone in the world could become rich and famous and get everything they always wanted, to realize it's not the answer. He got it, all of
Yeah.
it. And he
Right.
realized, oh, everything I was taught is wrong.
He's a brilliant man when it comes to that. Brilliant man. Right. He's in his. I need to start listening to him again
We need to wrap
because he's
up.
got some amazing
We need
things.
to wrap up. We only have
We need
1
to wrap
minute.
up. I've got little bingies.
1
I
minute
know.
word
So
of wisdom.
next week we'll be on for a whole hour for sure. For sure.
All right.
So Larry,
No, it's only 30 minutes. It's
this
only
was
30 minutes.
wonderful. I know. Oh well, it
It
goes by so
does. All
fast.
right. Thank you, Gail.
Yeah.
It was so good to see you.
Thank you, Larry, and we'll talk some more next week, and maybe we'll get more into the abyss because I'm
Yeah.
like
Next
fascinated with
week,
that
we're back
today.
to our normal time, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. All right.
Okay,
See
guys.
you
Thank you
then.
so much. Bye bye.